Good evening, everyone. My name is Mike Brock, and on behalf of my brothers, Jim and Davis, and the rest of our family, I want to extend our sincere thanks to the Alabama Officiating Hall of Fame for this recognition of our father, Bobby Brock. Please know that before our father recently passed away, he knew that he might be nominated for inclusion in this terrific group. He helped put some of the materials together, and it really put a pep in his step to know that you remembered what his contributions in athletics were in Alabama and beyond over 50 years ago. So I know he'd be really excited to know that he's being inducted into this group of terrific men and women. Officiating was a calling to my dad, and I know he'd be smiling all night long if he was here with us. My dad had a strong background in athletics. I think that helped him a lot in terms of his officiating career. He was a three-sport athlete at Sidney Lanier High School in Montgomery. He went on to an athletic scholarship at VPI, now Virginia Tech, where he participated in football, baseball, and basketball his freshman year. My dad we call Pop, so I may refer to him as Pop from time to time. Back in high school, he'd been selected as a first-team All-State player in basketball, and he participated in the first Alabama All-Star basketball game. And then after a year at VPI, he suffered an injury. He came back to Montgomery. He married my mom. A couple of years later, they started a family. But it was about the time that he came back to Montgomery that he began his officiating. He officiated primarily high school football and basketball games. My dad, Pop, he loved being an official. He liked all aspects of it. He liked interacting with the players, he liked interacting with the coaches, and he really loved the time that he was able to spend with his colleagues and his fellow coaches because of the camaraderie that they would develop as a team. He really loved what he did. In 1966, Cliff Harper, whose name will probably be familiar to many of you here, became the supervisor of officiating for the Southeastern Conference. And at that time, he added 3 high school referees from Alabama to the SEC basketball officiating staff. Orman Brown, also in this Hall of Fame, Reggie Copeland in this Hall of Fame, and my dad, Bobby Brock. Pop had the opportunity to interact with some of the best players in college basketball during that era. He called games for the likes of Pete Maravich, Artis Gilmore, Dan Issel, officiated games coached by Coach Rupp, Coach Maravich, and Coach McGuire at South Carolina, many others. Stories abound about some of those games and the things that occurred. On one occasion, Coach Rupp invited Pop to give the game ball to Dan Issel, who had just set the Kentucky single-game scoring record of 53 points. But it wasn't always smooth sailing with Coach Rupp and the other coaches. I certainly heard stories about numerous technical fouls. I've been at games when he would be calling them on coaches, and I've even heard some stories about some games that ended early because of the misconduct of coaches on the floor. But one story that Pop shared that was truly a life lesson for all of us and how to de-escalate a difficult situation concerns Coach Rupp. In one of the games, Coach Rupp was constantly fussing about the calls from the bench. He didn't think he was getting a fair game. Pop visited the bench a few times to discuss some of the calls. Then another call didn't go Kentucky's way. Pop went to the bench, and Pop described the conversation as going something like this. Coach Rupp, hey, Bobby, you're not having a good night. You missed another call. You've been missing them all night. And Pop replied to him, you know, Coach, I think you're right. I think I missed that one. And I can see my Pop jogging back onto the floor again. The game resumed, and Pop was at Rupp's bench for what he thought would be another complaint from the Kentucky's coach, but that was not the message at all. Coach Rupp said, Bobby, if you're still in town tomorrow, why don't you come to my house for lunch? I always got tickled about that one. I don't remember if the lunch happened or not. It probably didn't. But I can't tell you how many times in my life I've used that kind of approach to resolve disagreements, sometimes with really disagreeable people. Let me take just a minute to say a few words about my mom also. Beyond Pop's achievements on the fields and the courts, His greatest love was his family, especially our mom, Mary Lucie Carmichael Brock, to whom Pop was married for 68 years. Their partnership was rooted in love, respect, and shared values. My mom had a progressive eye disease called retinitis pigmentosa that causes blindness. There was no cure then or now. And after Pop had been calling games in the SEC for 6 or 7 years, I got to the point where my mom's eyes condition was such that she couldn't drive anymore. My mom was raising 3 rambunctious boys at the time. My pop was needed at home more. She needed more support. And so even though my dad would continue to participate in training and mentoring young officials, he met with Mr. Harper to let him know that he was needed more at home than on the court. He loved officiating, but he loved his family more. And I've heard from several people that knew my dad at that time that just said they had a huge amount of respect for Pop putting his family first, because everyone understood that Pop loved officiating. I'll close by saying this. I heard my dad say a few times that officiating for him was a love, and I heard him say many times, "We don't do this for the money," and I'm sure folks here can appreciate that. I remember him saying that he made more in expenses than he was paid for officiating the games. I think my dad called his last game when I was about 13 years old, so it's hard to remember all the details, but it sticks in my mind that he was getting paid about $170 to travel to Baton Rouge or to Jackson, Mississippi or Atlanta to call a game. And I can remember many times he'd check us out of school, take us over to the game. We'd come back that night, sometimes arriving as the sun was coming up. And the reason we'd be traveling overnight is that if he didn't get a hotel room in the city where he was calling the game, he'd get the money for the hotel room anyway, and that'd be a little more income for the family. But I think it's important for all of us to remember that my dad, and I know the other people that are involved in officiating that are here, aren't doing this for the money. They're doing it because they love the game and they want to see the contest be conducted in a fair way. And I think that's who my dad was and what he was about as an official. He certainly had that reputation. I'm at the end of my time, and so I just want to say thank you again. Thank you very much for this recognition of my dad. As I said earlier, I know he'd be thrilled to know that this is occurring, that he's being remembered for this. And if he was here, I know he'd be smiling from ear to ear the whole time. Who knows? Maybe he knows this is happening. I hope he does. And I'll just conclude by saying God bless and thank you.